الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Today is the 25th of Ramadan, correct me if I'm wrong. So we continue the Sira of the Prophet ﷺ. So we saw how the Quraysh negotiated with the Prophet ﷺ so that he can compromise on the religion, so that they can peacefully coexist with him ﷺ. But of course, when you mix truth with falsehood, the result is falsehood. The falsehood itself doesn't have any problems changing things or adding or subtracting, right? So any false religion, for them to celebrate some Islamic tenets or add or subtract something from their religion doesn't make a difference for them, because the religion anyway, most of it was man-made, right? But for the religion of Islam, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we cannot add, we cannot subtract. This is an order from Allah. It's not something that we manage or we change. That's why he ﷺ did not concede any small concession from the religion of Islam, because it's not up to him, it's not up to anyone that's created the religion of Islam from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then he ﷺ started preaching to the tribes that used to come to Mecca for Umrah and for Hajj. And then we had some notable people that became Muslim. We'll mention a few of them. For example, we have Suwayd bin Samit. He was an intelligent poet. He was from Yathrib. Yathrib is the original name of Al-Madinah Nabawiyah. Also, you know, it's not correct to call it Medina Munawwara. It's not really according to the Sunnah. It's either Madinat al-Rasul or Medina Nabawiyah, and that's what it's called, right? It was also called Tiba, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Medina Munawwara is something that was actually added by some Sufis, this name. Some scholars said that it's better to not call it that name. So Suwayd bin Samit was originally from Yathrib, that's currently called Medina, who had good judgment, and his people used to call him Al-Kamil, the perfect one. Why? Because he had the perfect lineage, he was a poet, he was noble, and he has perfect family. So he was one of the people that had his status in the society. So he went to Mecca for Umrah or Hajj, and then the Prophet ﷺ invited him to Islam. So Suwayd bin Samit answered the Prophet ﷺ. He said, perhaps what you have is similar to what I have. So now Suwayd bin Samit radiallahu anhu has something. So the Prophet ﷺ said, and what is it that you have? So he said, Luqman's wisdom. Luqman's wisdom. As you know, Luqman was one of the wise men. That's why we have a surah called Luqman, right, in the Quran. So the Prophet ﷺ said, present it to me. So look at the etiquette of how to invite people. He didn't say, no, you know, that's just nonsense. He said, okay, go ahead, say what you have to say. So he did. He presented him the wisdom of Luqman, because as we said, Luqman is a wise person, and many of his wisdom was written in the old cultures. So the Prophet ﷺ said, this speech is good. So he did not deny that the wisdom in Luqman's speech was good. He said, this speech is good, but what I have is better than this. It is the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to me. It is guidance and light. So of course, when he ﷺ recited the Quran to him, he recognized that it was truly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He accepted Islam. But then when he returned to Medina, he was soon killed in the fighting between the Aus and Khazraj. The Aus and Khazraj are two tribes in Medina. They are what to be called later on Al-Ansar. Al-Ansar, the ones that gave victory to the Prophet ﷺ and the Muhajirin. They are constituted from two tribes, Al-Aus and Khazraj. And throughout history, they always fought among each other. They killed each other. And they also, each one of them had a supporter from among the Jewish tribes that were in Medina. So that's why even the Jews used to fight with each other for the benefit of the mushriks, just like what the Muslims do today. Okay, that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chastised the Jews in the Quran, telling them, ثُمَّ هَا أَنْتُمْ أُولَٰئِ تَقْتُلُونَ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَتُخْرِجُونَ فَرِيقًا مِنْكُمْ مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ. You kill each other for the benefit of the mushriks, just like Muslims today. Right? Like the US on one side, the Russia on one side, and then these despots that are ruling us, they initiate wars between these countries, and these are just puppet wars or remote wars, right, between the two superpowers, and it's the Muslims that are being killed, right? This is wrong. You're not supposed to do that. So, Aus and Khazraj, we said there was a lot of war between them, and this happened before the Battle of Bu'ath. The Battle of Bu'ath, we'll see later, as Aisha said, was a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet. The Battle of Bu'ath was one of the fiercest battles between the Aus and Khazraj. Most of their leaders, actually all of their leaders, died in that battle. So they remained without a leader, which was the reason why they readily accepted the Prophet. The reason why they readily accepted the Prophet, because usually who are the people that oppose the truth? Whether it's a messenger or a scholar that's going to the truth. It's the higher-ups in the society who are benefiting from being the rulers. These are the ones that usually push away the message. Don't let the message reach the normal people. This is why jihad was legislated, so that you can take these despots that are ruling the people for their own benefits, so that the message can actually reach the people. Because of course you're not going to force someone to be a Muslim, la ikraha fi din, but you're going to present to him Islam in its true form, not in the defamed form that we see in the mass media, for example, today, right? And that's why many of the people in the West, when they know the truth, they readily become Muslims, subhanAllah, right? I mean, just like look at the war in Gaza. You know, the people in the West, they thought that the Jews were the ones that are actually the poor guys, and they were being attacked by these terrorists that are surrounding them. They never knew that actually they were the ones that came as refugees, and all of a sudden took up arms against the indigenous inhabitants of Palestine, and they claimed it as a country, and you know, they're killing babies. But subhanAllah, lately you see a lot of people in the U.S., in Canada, you know, I saw videos myself. You know, they're crying and they said, we didn't know this, we didn't. And also when they see the resilience of the Palestinians, where you know a father whose son was just killed, and he's saying Alhamdulillah, they're saying, how's that possible? You know, usually when your son dies, you know, you scream, you yell, you curse, but this person is happy and content with Allah's decree. So of course this made people change, and this is the reason why, as we said, jihad was legislated, jihad al-talab. You know, there are two types of jihad. There's jihad of defense. That means if someone invades a Muslim country, you must defend it. In this type of jihad, you don't need the authorization of the leader. As the scholar said, a woman does not need authorization of her husband to go to jihad. A slave does not need the authorization of his master to go to this type of jihad, jihad al-daf, just like what's happening now in Palestine. Right? So you have these madakhila, they come and say, oh, Wali al-Amr. Who's this Wali al-Amr? The Saudi leader who's you know, basically making the U.S. become fat with the Saudi oil is the one who's going to tell us to go which jihad? No, because these people, you know, when Russia invaded Afghanistan, they called for jihad everywhere. The Saudis called for jihad, right, against Russia. 1 million people died in Afghanistan. But alhamdulillah, Allah gave it to the Mujahideen. But when America invaded Afghanistan, same country, and it's a kafir country. What's the difference between the U.S. and Russia? Kafirs, you know. All of a sudden they said, oh, you know, the Taliban, they are a deviant sect. No more jihad. Why? Because their master, their scholar, Bush or Trump or whomever it is, their scholar told them it's not jihad. So basically we should not listen to these people. These people, they use the Sunni blood for the benefit of the kuffar. And I have to say that, because when we know the truth, we have to say it. And these, they are called the scholars of the castle, okay? There are good scholars, mashallah, out there. There's the Mushaq al-Huwaini in Egypt. There is al-Adawi. There is al-Jasim in Kuwait. There are good scholars, mashallah. And there's Sheikh Albani, rahimahullah, who died. You know, he was one of the best ones. He was one of the best scholars, and he talked about all these things. And Sheikh Albani, rahimahullah, said something very simple. He said, even the Shia, because this is something that people don't understand. You know, the Saudis, they say the Shia, they are in bed with the Jews, and they are conspiring against the Sunnis. But we see with our own eyes that it's the Shia who are fighting against the Jews in protection of the Palestinians, and it's the Emiratis and the Saudis and Jordanians who are giving food to the Jews. So you're telling us that the Shia are secretly collaborating with the Jews, but you are collaborating with them openly. So who is worse, right? The bottom line is, when a Muslim land is attacked, as the scholars have said, one of them, Salih al-Luhaydan, who was one of the good Saudi scholars, he died, rahimahullah. When a Muslim land is attacked, the divisions are forgotten among the sects. This is what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said. Not only the divisions are forgotten among the Muslim sects, but also, Salih al-Haydar rahimahullah said, you can join forces with the Christians in that Muslim land against this invading kafir enemy. This is fatwa of all the scholars, because, for example, just an example, Egypt, for example, has 10% Christians, right? And let's assume tomorrow the US invades it, and then Muslims, they wage jihad against it. Now, if the Egyptian Christians are fighting these invaders, then the Muslims are allowed to join forces with them against these invading force. So therefore, when a Muslim land is attacked, the differences are put aside, because it becomes disbelief against belief. It becomes disbelief against belief. Therefore, the differences among the Muslims are put aside. The front is united against the disbelievers. Once the disbelievers go, then after that, each Muslim sect, says whatever he does, or basically, not says does whatever, like, basically, we go back to showing what's right, what's wrong about these deviant sects. So this is, you were talking about this. It's called the jihad al-daf'. This is to defend yourself. I'm showing this because the voice of these castle scholars is very loud, and many people don't hear anything except that. So it's normal that they follow them. The other type of jihad is jihad al-talab. That's when the Muslims have enough power to be able to spread Islam to the disbelieving land through power. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this in Surah Al-Anfal. In the beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that as long as the Muslim army is a tenth of the Kafir army, then that means that we have enough power to fight for the sake of Allah, jihad al-talab. But later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala abrogated that and made it twice. In other words, if the Muslims have half the number of the soldiers of the enemy, then you can go jihad talab. And this jihad, of course, has different rules. This jihad, a person has to ask for his parents' permission. He needs the authorization of the Muslim ruler that rules according to Allah's law. So that does not exist in today's time. But the first type of jihad, you don't even need the authorization of anyone. Once a kafir country invades a Muslim country, you fight back. And of course, if you go to the convention, the United Nations, they agree to that too, right? I mean, it's not something that, people are going to call you a terrorist because of it. I mean, you're defending your own land, right? Someone comes and takes your home. Are you going to tell them, oh, well, let me go, let him do that, otherwise I'm going to be called a terrorist? No, that's not what it is. So, Bu'ath was a good, as Aisha said, was a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the leaders of the Aus Khazraj were killed. Because as we said, it's usually the leaders that oppose the message, like Abu Jahl, like Utbah, all these people, who they were leaders of Quraysh. And as we saw, Abu Jahl, the reason why he rejected the message, not because he did not believe in it, but he said it clearly. He said, look, the children of Banu Abdu Manaf, who are, as we said, Hashim, Al-Muttalib, Nawfal, and Abd Shams, he said the children of Abdu Manaf and us, because they're coming from the same lineage, the Abdu Manaf and his brother, the brother of Abdu Manaf is the one of the ancestors of Abu Jahl. So he said we competed with them. They were kind to the pilgrims, we were kind to the pilgrims. And then now they come and tell us that they have a prophet among them and receive revelation from the heaven. How are we going to compete with that? Of course we're not going to believe in him. So Abu Jahl rejected him not because he did not believe in the message, but because of envy and because of worldly reasons. So the Aus and Khazraj used to be two tribes that were warring with each other. And in the Battle of Bu'ath, as we said, the leaders were killed, and that's why they were ready to accept Muhammad ﷺ as a leader that is going to join these two tribes and stop this nonsense killing that went on for generations among these two tribes. Then we have another person called Iyas bin Mu'ad. He was still a youth from the Aus tribe, and he came as a member of a delegation to seek alliance with Quraysh against Al-Khazraj. Again, we're talking about the same two tribes. And this was in the 11th year of prophethood. So the Prophet ﷺ met this delegation that came from Medina and told them, maybe there's something better for you than what you have come for. Maybe there's something for you than seeking alliance with Quraysh against Al-Khazraj. So they said, what would that be? So he ﷺ said, I am Allah's messenger. He sent me to the worshippers to invite them to worship Allah without associating partners with Him, and He revealed the book to me. Then he mentioned Islam to them and recited some Quran. And yes, this youth said, oh people, by Allah, this is better than what you came for. In other words, he believed in the Prophet ﷺ. But then one of the leaders, Abu al-Husayr, Anas bin Rafi', who was a member of the delegation, took a handful of dust and threw it in Iyas's face, saying, get away from us. So basically he rejected that. But Iyas believed in the Prophet ﷺ, and when he went back to Medina, breathed his last breath, acclaiming Allah's name. So he believed, subhanAllah, before dying. And this is a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He guides whomever He wills. So this person, at the end of his life, he accepted Islam and died as a Muslim. We also have the famous Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. Abu Dhar al-Ghifari radiallahu anhu. He used to live in the suburbs of Yathrib. So news of the Islam of Suwayd bin Samit and Iyas bin Mu'adh reached him. So again, when people they start becoming curious when they hear these kind of things. So basically, as he said, Abu Dhar, in the hadith said, I was a man from the tribe of Ghifar. We heard that a man had appeared in Mecca, claiming to be a prophet. I said to my brother, go to that man and talk to him and bring me his news. So the brother of Abu Dhar al-Ghifari set out and met the Prophet ﷺ. He asked him, and then when he came back, Abu Dhar asked his brother, what's the news with you? He said, by Allah, I saw a man that was enjoining what is good, forbidding what is evil. So Abu Dhar told him, you have not satisfied me with this little information. So what he did, he decided to go himself, Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. So he took a water skin and a stick and proceeded towards Mecca. So he said, neither did I know the Prophet ﷺ, nor did I like to ask anyone about him. I kept on drinking Zamzam water and staying in the mosque. So basically he lived on Zamzam water. So no food, only Zamzam, because Zamzam water, it has this miraculous thing. As Prophet ﷺ said, Zamzam lima shuriba lah. So Zamzam, basically, some scholars said it's a weak hadith, but the correct opinion that it's correct. So Zamzam is whatever is drank for. So you're hungry, you drink Zamzam, you're no longer hungry, right? So he lived almost a month on Zamzam only, to the point that he said that I even gained weight. So he gained weight, subhanAllah. Then Ali passed by me and said, it seems you are a stranger. So Ali ibn Abi Talib, so Abu Dhar al-Ghifari said, it seems you are a stranger. So he said, yes. So he proceeded to his house and I accompanied him. Nor did he ask me anything, nor did I tell him anything. So basically he was a guest. He's like, come with me. The next morning I went to the mosque to ask about the Prophet ﷺ, but no one told me anything about him. Ali passed by me again and asked, hasn't the man recognized his dwelling place yet? I said, no. He said, come along with me. So he asked me, what is your business? What has brought you to this town, to Mecca? So Ali is asking Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. I said to him, if you keep my secret, I will tell you. He said, I will. So I said to him, we have heard that a person has appeared here claiming to be a prophet. I sent my brother to speak to him, and when he returned, he did not bring a satisfactory report. So I thought of meeting him personally. Ali told Abu Dhar, you have reached your goal. I am going to him just now. So follow me, and wherever I enter, enter after me. If I should see someone who may cause you trouble, I will stand near a wall pretending to mend my shoes as a warning. In other words, it's giving him a sign. If Abu Jahl comes or something, because if they see him going to become a Muslim, they're going to stop him. And you should go away then. Ali proceeded, and I accompanied him until he entered the place. And I entered with him to the Prophet ﷺ, to whom I said, present the principles of Islam to me. So when he ﷺ did, Abu Dhar continues, I embraced Islam immediately. So he ﷺ said, O Abu Dhar, keep your conversion as a secret and return to your town. And when you hear of our victory, then you return to us. So ﷺ knew that there's going to come a time when Islam is going to be victorious, right? It was a matter of time. But Abu Dhar had a different opinion. I said, by him who has sent you with the truth, I will announce my conversion to Islam publicly among the infidels. So he went to the mosque, and when some people from Quraysh were present, he said, O folk of Quraysh, I testify there is la ilaha illallah, none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, and I also testify that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger. So on hearing that, the Quraysh men said, get this Sabit. The Sabit means the person that left the religion of his forefathers. But a Muslim, they called them Sabi'un. Get this Sabit. They got up and beat me nearly to death. He then faced them. They beat me nearly to death. Al-Abbas saw me and threw himself over me to protect me. So this is the Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. He hadn't become a Muslim yet. So he then faced them and said, woe to you, you want to kill a man from the tribe of Ghifar? Although your trade and communications are through the territory of Ghifar, in other words, if you kill this man, forget about doing business through their land. They're not going to let you do that. So they therefore left me. The next morning, I returned to the mosque and I said the same thing. So, subhanAllah, I was intent on making the infidels upset. So they again said, get this Sabit. I was treated in the same way on the previous day, and again Al-Abbas found me and threw himself over me to protect me, and told them the same thing he had said the day before. So that was the conversion of Abu Dhar al-Ghifari. So basically he became a Muslim, and he's like, I don't care what happens to me in the sake of Allah. Tufayl bin Amr al-Dawsi, is going to be the last one. Tufayl bin Amr al-Dawsi, he was an honest poet and chief of the tribe of Daws that inhabited an area that's close to Yemen in South Arabia. He arrived in Mecca in the 11th year of prophethood. Great reception ceremonies were accorded to him on his arrival because he was one of the leaders of the great tribes. The Meccans soon started to say over and over in his ears all sorts of opposition against Prophet. So they didn't want him to go and listen to Prophet because they knew that if he listened to him, he's going to become a Muslim. So they tried to defame the Prophet, as we said, as the media does to Islam today. They even alleged that he ﷺ had caused the most horrible societal split, dividing all sorts of social life. Even the family ties were severed because of him, etc. So they said, don't even speak to him or listen to him. But the man basically was a man of his own mind, and he did not listen to them. Actually, no. He was overpowered. Sorry, by these pleas. He was overpowered by these pleas to the point that he even stuffed his ears with a piece of cotton in order not to hear any word of what the Prophet ﷺ had to say. However, when this tribesman entered the mosque, he saw Muhammad ﷺ observing his prayer, and out of curiosity he approached him, for it was divine will to hear the Prophet ﷺ sound and appealing words. In other words, he was intent on not hearing the Prophet ﷺ. He put cotton in his ears. But when he went to the mosque, he saw the Prophet ﷺ praying, then he was attracted to him by that. The truth, when you see it, you recognize it. So the temptation to hear was irresistible, so he followed the Prophet ﷺ into his house, briefed him on his advent and all the story of the people of Quraysh, what they told him. So the Prophet ﷺ recited to him some verses of the Quran, and the man managed to taste something exceptionally beautiful and distinguish the truth. He became a Muslim. He and 70 or 80 of his followers emigrated to Medina after the Battle of the Trench. In other words, he became a Muslim. He went back to his people and he called other people to Islam, and then he emigrated to Medina after the Battle of the Trench, and actually he was martyred on the day of Al-Yamama. The Battle of Al-Yamama, that's when 3,000 Muslim soldiers met 100,000 Christian soldiers. The Battle of Al-Yamama. This was the prelude to the Battle of Tabuk. So we Muslims don't do math. Muslims don't do math. When it comes to the fight for the sake of Allah, Allah sends angels to fight with you. It's in the Quran, right? We read the Quran. It's in Surah Tawbah and Surah Al-Anfal. Allah subhanahu says, is 3,000 angels enough for you? No, how about we give you 5,000 angels? And this happened throughout history, but the intention has to be that you are fighting for Allah, not for the land, not for position. Intention. If you're fighting for the sake of Allah, Allah will send angels to help the Muslims in happen. Finally, it was Dimad al-Azdi. This was a person from Yemen who was good in doing ruqya. And when he came to Mecca, they told him that there was this person who was crazy, Muhammad ﷺ. So what he thought, he went to him and he said, look, I'm good in ruqya. How about I do ruqya to you? So he alayhi salatu wasalam answered by dua al-haja. Inna alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina, until the end. So the Imam al-Azdi, when he heard that, he said, repeat that to me. So Rasul repeated khutbah al-haja to him, and then he became Muslim. Because, he knew what a person touched by sorcery is like. And he saw Muhammad ﷺ, he said, this is not, basically he's like a doctor, and he knows, what a sick person is. So he became a Muslim. So we stop here today, inshallah. Tomorrow there is no lesson, but